Chris Eubank Sr. was never just a fighter, he was a phenomenon. Flamboyant, fearless, and utterly uncompromising, Eubank didn't just win fights, he commanded attention. From brutal domestic wars to world title nights under the brightest lights, he built his legacy against the very best of a golden era. In this video, we count down the top 5 wins of Chris Eubank Sr., the victories that defined his reign, silenced doubters, and cemented him as one of the most unforgettable champions British boxing has ever produced. Expect drama, rivalry, resilience, and moments that still echo through boxing history. Let's rewind the clock and relive the nights simply the best proved exactly who he was. Number 5. Tony Thornton. 19 September 1992. Chris Eubank's 4th defense of the WBO Super Middleweight title wasn't about flash. It was about control, durability, and championship composure. Fighting in front of a packed crowd at the Scottish Exhibition Centre in Glasgow, Eubank faced a man known for toughness alone, Tony the punching postman Thornton, a respected contender who had never been stopped and came in riding a 9-fight winning streak. Eubank started like a champion should. Sharp, spiteful combinations and fast hands allowed him to dominate the opening rounds, picking Thornton apart with clean punches and movement. By the 4th, it looked routine, but Thornton refused to play the role of opponent. In the middle rounds, the American began to apply pressure. In the 7th, he landed a solid right hand that briefly stunned Eubank and reminded everyone this was no formality. Eubank managed the fight smartly from there, controlling rounds 9 and 10, weathering a late rally in the 11th, and boxing safely in the 12th, knowing the belts were staying with him. After 12 hard rounds, the judges scored it 117 to 112, 116 to 113, and 115 to 113, all for Eubank. The win extended his unbeaten record to 33-0, preserved his world title, and showcased a side of Chris Eubank Sr. that often goes overlooked: the ability to dig deep, adapt under pressure, and win when the fight turns uncomfortable. Number 4. Tulani Sugar Boy Malinga, 1st February 1992. If number 5 showed Chris Eubank's control, this fight showed something just as important: his ability to survive and adapt. Making the first defense of his WBO Super Middleweight title, Eubank stepped into the ring at Birmingham to face one of the most underestimated operators of the era, Tulani Sugar Boy Malinga. Smooth, intelligent, and defensively brilliant, Malinga was never an easy night for anyone, and Eubank found that out quickly. From the opening rounds, Malinga's sharp counterpunching and evasive movement disrupted Eubank's rhythm. Where many opponents froze under Eubank's presence, Malinga stayed calm, picking his shots and refusing to be drawn into reckless exchanges. It was awkward, technical, and uncomfortable, exactly the kind of fight champions are judged by. The pivotal moment came in the 5th round. Eubank caught Malinga and sent him to the canvas, a knockdown that would prove crucial on the scorecards. But rather than folding, Malinga showed tremendous resolve, rising to continue pressing the champion and forcing Eubank to work every second of the remaining rounds. Despite the knockdown, the fight stayed razor close. Malinga continued to land clean counters and frustrate Eubank with his ring IQ, pushing the champion deep into championship rounds. It was a chess match wrapped in a title fight, tense, physical, and fiercely competitive. After 12 hard rounds, Eubank retained his belt by split decision, underlining just how narrow the margins were. In hindsight, this bout has aged brilliantly. Malinga would later defeat Nigel Benn in their rematch and go on to test fighters like Roy Jones Jr., confirming the level of opponent Eubank had overcome. This wasn't a statement win, it was something more revealing. A champion digging in, finding a way, and proving he belonged at the very top. Number 3. Michael Watson versus Chris Eubank 1. 22nd June 1991. Some fights define legacies not because they are comfortable, but because they are unavoidable. This was one of those nights. On 22nd June 1991, at a packed Earl's Court in London, Chris Eubank and Michael Watson collided in a high-stakes, 12-round war for the WBO Middleweight title. Inside an arena holding 11,000 fans, 2 of Britain's finest produced a contest so fierce, so evenly balanced, that it demanded to be seen again, for better or worse. From the opening bell, this was elite domestic boxing at its absolute peak. Watson, disciplined and powerful, pressed forward with intent, while Eubank relied on sharp counters, movement, and his trademark composure under pressure. Neither man was willing to yield an inch. Every round felt contested, every exchange mattered. The action was relentless. Watson's strength and precision repeatedly troubled Eubank, forcing him into uncomfortable exchanges, while Eubank's timing and accuracy kept him competitive when momentum threatened to swing away. It was tactical, physical, and emotionally charged, the kind of fight that keeps a crowd on edge from start to finish. After 12 exhausting rounds, the judges returned a majority decision in Eubank's favor, 116 to 113, 115 to 113, and 114 to 114. The verdict immediately split opinion. Many ringside observers and fans felt the fight was too close to call, and controversy followed almost instantly. The calls for a rematch were loud, emotional, and unavoidable. Not out of rivalry hype, but because the fight demanded resolution. This first encounter wasn't just a title defense or a hard-fought win. It was the spark that ignited one of the most significant and tragic chapters in British boxing history. At the time, though, it stood as proof of something crucial. Chris Eubank could survive elite pressure, thrive in chaos, and win when the margins were razor thin. A classic, a controversy, and a fight that boxing would never forget. Number 2. Nigel Benn, 18th November 1990, WBO Middleweight Championship. On November 18th, 1990, British boxing witnessed one of its most savage and iconic nights, as Chris Eubank Sr. challenged Nigel Benn for the WBO Middleweight Championship in Birmingham. What followed was a brutal, chaotic war that didn't just crown a world champion. It ignited one of the greatest rivalries in boxing history. The fight began without feeling out jabs or caution. From the opening bell, Benn stalked forward with raw aggression, while Eubank stood his ground, confident and defiant. In the fourth round, Benn landed a ferocious right uppercut during a break, causing Eubank to bite through his tongue. Blood poured into Eubank's mouth, but he hid the injury from his corner, fearing a doctor's stoppage. By the fifth round, Benn's left eye had swollen almost completely shut, yet neither man backed off. The sixth and seventh rounds saw Eubank begin to apply sustained pressure, forcing Benn onto the ropes with sharp combinations, while Benn responded with punishing body shots and looping hooks. The pivotal moment came in the eighth round, when Benn landed a heavy overhand right on the top of Eubank's head, sending him to the canvas. It was the only official knockdown of the fight. Eubank rose quickly, composed himself, and finished the round strongly, even posing between rounds as if to signal that he was far from beaten. In the ninth, the fight reached its boiling point. Benn pressed forward looking for the finish, but Eubank suddenly exploded with a left-right combination that rocked Benn backward. A straight right sent Benn stumbling into the corner, and with just seconds remaining in the round, referee Richard Steele stepped in to stop the fight. Chris Eubank Sr. was crowned WBO Middleweight Champion of the World, handing Nigel Benn his first professional defeat and beginning a rivalry that would define an era, one that would later echo through the next generation with their sons. This was not just a win, it was the birth of British boxing folklore. Number 1. Michael Watson, 2. 21st September 1991, WBO Super Middleweight Championship. Number 1 is the most difficult win of Chris Eubank Sr.'s career to revisit, not because of what it gave him, but because of what it took from everyone involved. The rematch with Michael Watson took place on September 21st, 1991, at White Hart Lane. Unlike their first fight, this was not a close contest. Watson boxed superbly, controlling the range, landing cleaner shots, and steadily building a clear lead on all three scorecards. By the later rounds, Eubank was visibly tiring and increasingly aware that he was falling behind. Knowing he could not win on points, Eubank was forced into desperation mode. In the 10th round, he applied sustained pressure for the first time in the fight, but Watson absorbed it and continued to dictate the tempo. Near the end of the 11th round, Watson landed a short right hand that sent Eubank to the canvas. The referee did not administer a mandatory count. As Eubank rose and the fight continued, he immediately threw a right uppercut that caught Watson flush, sending him crashing backward into the ropes for a knockdown. The bell sounded moments later. Watson rose but was clearly unsteady as he was guided back to his corner. The 60-second break told two very different stories. Eubank knew he needed a knockout to save his unbeaten record. Watson, ahead on every scorecard, only needed to survive the final round. Yet he appeared concussed and in no condition to continue. Despite this, he was sent out for the 12th. Early in the round, Eubank unleashed a sustained barrage. The referee stopped the contest, awarding Eubank a technical knockout. Moments later, Michael Watson collapsed in the ring. Due to the lack of a specialist brain unit at the first hospital and critical delays in treatment, Watson suffered severe oxygen deprivation, leading to permanent brain damage. The tragedy of that night led directly to major reforms in boxing safety, including mandatory ringside doctors, paramedics, and improved emergency response protocols. Watson's courage did not end there. Through extraordinary determination, he relearned how to walk and completed the London Marathon in 2003, walking it over 6 days to raise money for the Brain and Spine Foundation, crossing the finish line alongside Chris Eubank and his neurosurgeon, Peter Hamlin. What is often overlooked is the lasting impact this fight had on Eubank himself.